What is the speed of light? It's fast. Good answer. What, 1,000 meters per second? 300,000 meters per second. 3 times 10 to the 8th meters per second. Yes, that is the speed of light. 299,753, I think. How do we know this? Observation of what? Light. Very good. The first fella to try and measure the speed of light that we know of was Galileo. And as Galileo would have, he had a very simple scheme. He took 2 lanterns. He covered them both with a cloth. He climbed a mountain with one. He told his servant to climb a mountain with the other. He said, look, when I take the cloth off mine, you take the cloth off yours. I will time it with my pulse. His conclusion was that the speed of light was what you said, damn fast. He couldn't tell a difference. We didn't really know the speed of light until the 1700s. This was at a time when we had already figured out how big the solar system was, and we could start to measure the aberration of the orbits of the moons of Jupiter. They would shift in their orbital timings by 16 minutes from January to June. That happens to be 16 minutes it takes light to cross the orbit of the Earth. And that's how we figured out how fast the speed of light was. Since then, we've had a whole bunch of different ways to do it. You can use spinning mirrors, you can use oscilloscopes, lots of interesting ways to calculate the speed of light. We found, however, that the speed of light showed up in raw calculations having nothing to do with light, or at least we didn't think they had anything to do with light. Right around the early 1800s, a fellow by the name of Weber did a simple calculation regarding the electric charge and the magnetic charge. This was at a time when nobody knew that they were related. And he found as he divided these 2 units that a velocity popped out, and that velocity was 3 times 10 to the 8th meters per second. He knew what it was. Can you imagine the shock as he took the unit of electric charge, divided it by the unit of magnetic charge, and saw the speed of light come out? What did these things have to do with light? At the time, no one knew. It took Maxwell to figure that out. Maxwell determined the whole theory of electromagnetics. He came up with the nice notion that electromagnetism travels in waves. He showed that those waves would travel at the speed of light, and he said, well, what else could light be? So Maxwell told us what light was, oscillating electric and magnetic fields. But Maxwell left that open to one question. He said, what's the frame of reference? How did this velocity just come out of these calculations? What is that velocity relative to? Well, never mind that. Interesting discussion. We could get into Einstein and all of that, but we have something else to talk about here. Let's see if we can... I know, it's disappointing, isn't it? I mean, I could go on for an hour on physics and science, but okay, all right. Let's see. Pray to the... Yeah, see there? Yeah. What is that? It is. It's the galaxy in Andromeda, M31. It is the closest galaxy to the Earth. Maybe 4 million light years, 3 million light years. It's close by. Slightly larger than our galaxy. Our galaxy is the Milky Way. Headed towards us. In about 3 billion years, it will collide with our galaxy. And that'll be interesting for us. Well, not for us, but for whoever's around at the time. It should be a fun time. Anyway, There's a button I can push here. Oh, there it is. Ding. Yes. Hello, everybody. I'm your new CTO. I don't know what happened to the last guy. He's gone. But I'm with you now, and I will be your CTO going forward. Now, I know there have been some problems in the past. I understand that we've had some issues with quality and schedule, but I want to let you know right now we're going to deal with that. And we're going to deal with that not by blaming anybody else or trying to point our fingers at other people. We're going to deal with that differently. Are we professionals? What does it mean to be a professional? And do we meet that challenge? Are we professionals? A professional is someone who takes their job very seriously. They have pride in what they do, pride of their work. A professional goes home every day proud of what they've accomplished that day. A professional knows what they need to do, and they don't compromise what they need to do. They are hired for their knowledge, and they execute that knowledge. Are we professionals? We need to be. That's something that's getting more and more important. Look around here. How much software is running in this room right now? A great deal. One might say that it's too much, but it is a lot. I mean, how many smartphones are there in the room? A lot. And do you have any other handheld equipment that might be running software in it? Is there software running in those two projectors? Certainly. What about this microphone here? What about right in here, right in the little microphone? Is there software in there? There could be a DSP in there. Certainly there's software in this thing, whatever this thing is. Radio transmitter, it's got to be software run. What about the batteries in your laptop? Is there software running in those batteries? There is, most likely. They've got little processors in them, and your laptop talks to the little processors. They've got a couple of cameras up there. They look pretty sophisticated. Got to be software running in them. There's a lot of equipment over here. Got to be software in those. Are there elevators in the building? Software in those elevators. How about that phone over there? Is there a thermostat on the wall? Oh, yeah, over there. Software in that thing? You go out on the road. Is there software in all those cars? Every single one of them? And does that software control things like the brakes and the engine and the throttle? How many times per day do you put your life in the hands of an if statement written by a 22-year-old at 3 in the morning? We need to be professional. Who's heard of Knight Capital? I told this story to the class earlier today. Knight Capital. Anybody hear of Knight Capital? Other than the people who were in the class today? So Knight Capital, lovely little company, trading firm, doesn't exist anymore. Some software guy left one of the test systems online. A bunch of other traders who didn't work for Knight Capital found out about it, started trading with it. It was trading stupidly, so they stole about $450 million from the company in a matter of a few hours. The CEO woke up the next day. He didn't have a company. It was gone overnight. Right? Some software guy. Killed the whole company. Anybody remember what happened to Barclays Bank? People woke up in the morning, went to the ATM machines, their balances were zero. Why? Some dumb software guy. It took them a couple of days to sort it out, but by then all the customers had fled. I mean, what would you do? My bank balance is zero. Right? I'm leaving that bank. Doesn't matter if they gave it back to me later. They might take it away again. Who knows what kind of software people they've got there. At some point, something very, very bad will happen. Something worse than $450 million. Something very, very bad will happen. And it will be some software guy's fault, some dumb software guy. And I don't want to be here when that happens. I would like to be able to say of you, of us, we were professionals. We did not behave that way. We did not allow that to happen. We understood what was at stake. You understand what's at stake, right? You are programmers. The lifeblood of the company runs through your fingers. This is not some little stuff that you're dealing with. Your company, our company, depends for its life on the software that we write. We are the reason the company makes money or loses money. We are the ones who hold within our hands the lifeblood of the company. We are the surgeons, the doctors, doing open heart surgery on the systems of our companies. We need to treat it that way, with that level of seriousness, with that level of professionalism. You are all heart surgeons. I wear this green band. I wear it as a reminder because it's easy to forget to behave professionally. We have not grown up in an industry that considered itself serious. Most of us don't take the industry seriously. Most programmers don't take themselves particularly seriously. We're kind of a happy-go-lucky crew. We like to talk about geeky stuff, galaxies and stars. We like to do all that geeky, interesting stuff. We haven't taken ourselves seriously, but it's time we do. I want you to know that I have some expectations. Expectations about how we will behave from now on. I don't care what's happened in the past. The past is the past. But I expect certain things. I think we all should expect these things from each other. And I'm going to list them for you. But as I do, I want you to realize that these are just the kinds of behaviors that you would normally expect from a professional group of programmers. There's nothing outlandish that I'm going to ask you here. There's nothing out of the ordinary. There's nothing you can't do. There's nothing that is inappropriate. And we will begin with the most important of them. Under no circumstances will we ship shit. We will not do this. This is the green band. We will not do this. No schedule will make us do this. No yelling manager will make us do this. No one will put their nose in our face and say, ship it now, damn it, and have us say, okay. If it's crap, if it's shit, we will not ship it. This is a fundamental responsibility of a professional. It's why we were hired as professionals, to know when something is shit and to be able to say so. Sorry, we cannot ship this. It's crap. It has to wait until it's not crap anymore, and that might take some time. There has been some fecal matter shipped over the years. That period has ended. We will no longer do this. I expect that we will always be ready. Do you have your hand up?
Yes.
All right.
Can you just go back one slide? We need to take a picture of that. It's a very important sentence. Okay, it's fine. Thank you.
All right, good. It's being tweeted. I expect that we will always be ready. What does this mean? It means exactly what it says. We will always be ready. Ready to deploy. Ready to ship. Ready to execute. We will always be ready. I don't want to hear, oh, the release isn't ready. I don't want to hear QA hasn't finished burning it in. I don't want to hear we haven't put that module back together. I want us always to be ready. Now, I can understand a few hours delay if we have to put a few things back together. I might be able to understand a day or two's delay, a week at the outside. But I don't want anybody telling me when I walk in and say, all right, boys, we got to ship. All right, people, we got to ship. I don't want anybody saying, oh, well, we're just not going to be ready for weeks. No, I want you ready. I want you ready all the time. I want you ready to ship. If you can pull it off every day, I want you to pull it off every day. If you can pull it off every hour, I want you to pull it off every hour. Find some way, I don't care how, find some way to be ready to deploy all the time. No delays. I definitely don't want any of these silly things called burn-in periods. Does anybody do that? Stabilization periods? Right? After you release it, then you stabilize it? No, no, no. Keep it stable all the time. It's always stable. It's always right. It always works. It's always ready to deploy. I expect that you will be able to add features in such a way that if I say we need to deploy tomorrow, you will say, okay. You might not have all the features done. That I understand. I understand if we don't have all the features done. I don't understand not being able to deploy. Now, I don't know how you're going to do that. There have been some recommendations over the years, things like short cycles. There's this thing out there that's got 5 letters in it called Scrum. Does that do it? I don't know. If that does it, fine. Maybe that does it, maybe it doesn't, but you are the professionals who can figure out how to be constantly ready. That's what I expect. Figure it out. Figure out how to be constantly ready. Figure out how to keep the software running all the time without defects. Make sure that it's never, ever broken. I've noted from time to time that sometimes code gets checked into the source code repository that doesn't compile. I don't expect that anymore. I've noted from time to time that sometimes code gets checked in that does not run. I don't expect that anymore. If it gets checked in, it's ready to deploy. Period. I expect stable productivity. And by that I mean that I don't expect you to start out fast and then slow down. I've seen this a number of times where people will begin a project and go very, very fast, but then a year later they're going horribly slowly. I don't exactly know why this happens, but I infer that what's going on is that the code started out small enough for them to go fast, and then as they roared through their process, they made such a horrible mess that they just slowed down to a crawl. I don't expect this. I don't expect anybody to slow down. If you can deliver features at a certain rate, I expect that rate to remain constant. If we add new people, it should go up. If we lose some people, it should go down. But I don't expect this funny slide down into chaos. I want you to just stay constantly working at the same rate. Now, I don't know how you're going to do that. Maybe it's got something to do with not making the mess. Maybe you could keep the code constantly clean. I've heard that bad code slows us down, so I have an idea. No more bad code. Keep the code clean, and then we can go fast all the time. I know this is different. I know it's not what you expected, but I believe it's possible for us to behave this way. And I expect stable productivity, constant, fast behavior. I expect inexpensive adaptability, which means that when the customer changes their mind, which happens on rare occasions, I expect you to say, okay. And I don't expect horrible estimates. I don't expect people saying, oh, God, you don't know what that means. Everything's got to be redesigned from the bottom up. I don't expect that. I expect you as professionals to have identified those parts of the system that are stable, not going to change. I expect that you have separated them from those parts that do change, and you've kept them nicely isolated from one another so that when those things that do change, change, it's a simple matter of changing them. For example, we may want to change the database. You know, Oracle, we've got this contract with Oracle, that's fine, but that may not last. And some other company might produce a database that we like better. And it may be that one day I say, you know, I've done the cost-benefit comparison, and company XYZ has got a better database than Oracle. Imagine that. And so let's shift our systems, and I expect that you will be able to do that without huge cost in a matter of a few days. Just pull the Oracle out and put the other thing in. I understand that lately there has been some thought that even the notion that a database is relational could be brought into question. That maybe there are databases that are of some other form. No SQL, I hear it all the time. No SQL. What if we wanted to put one of those in? That should be possible. And it shouldn't take a lot of effort. If I said, we're moving to CouchDB, you should say, right. We'll have it ready tomorrow. What else might change? Well, the web server. I mean, the web server is, you know what might change? The fact that we're on the web. I remember back when there wasn't one. Anybody remember when there wasn't a web? Right? We still had applications. Do you remember what happened when the web came along and all the applications had to change? And it was hell. I don't want that hell again. The web might change. I expect that when the delivery mechanism, the web or whatever, when that changes, and it will, I expect it will be easy to make that change. I expect that you will have designed the software and organized it in such a way that that change will be moderately trivial. I don't want anybody coming to me and saying that the whole system has to be redesigned. No. We will not redesign the whole system. I expect you to keep the system constantly clean and appropriate, which means that you're going to have to continuously improve it. I don't want it to get out of date. I don't want it to slide down some horrible hill of entropy into old-fashioned code. Right? I want you to constantly keep the systems up to date, clean, improved. If there's some new library out there, I want you to use it as soon as you can. If there's some new interesting language out there, I expect you to figure out a way to incorporate it if you can. I expect you to keep the systems up to date and clean at all times. I don't want anybody sliding down that nice, relaxing hill into irrelevance. Keep everything continuously clean and continuously working. Have you heard of the Boy Scout rule? The Boy Scouts have been doing this for years. The Boy Scout rule is very simple. They say, keep the campground cleaner than when you found it. Leave the campground cleaner than you found it. This sounds like a good idea to me. Leave the code cleaner than you found it. Every time you check it in a little cleaner than when you checked it out. Every day, every time you touch the code, improve it slightly. Never let it get worse. Always keep it getting better. Continuous improvement at all times. I expect fearless competence. Now, I have seen over the years people who have become afraid to make changes, afraid of their code, afraid of what might happen if they touch a line of code. Perhaps they bring code up on their screen and they see something that ought to be cleaned. And they think, I should follow the Boy Scout rule and clean it. And then another thought occurs to them. I'm not touching it. Because they know that if they touch it, they might break it. And if they break it, it becomes theirs. That fear is not professional. And I expect you to behave in an entirely different way. I expect you to behave this way. When you see something in the code that is wrong, I expect you to clean it instantly, without fear, without hesitation. I expect you to be able to mold the code. I expect you to be the masters of the code. You are the professionals. You wrote the damn stuff. You ought to be able to mold it and flex it and twist it and turn it. It should be yours. And you should be able to do this fearlessly and competently. I don't know how you're going to do this. I have heard that there are disciplines. Disciplines such as, something with 3 letters in it that begin with a T and a D and a D. I've heard that these disciplines might help you gain this fearless competence, but I don't care. I don't care how you do it. Whether it's with test-driven development or some other mechanism, I simply expect that you will not be afraid to touch your code at any time. That you will be able to maneuver it and manipulate it and clean it with a will and an aggression and a fearlessness that is required if we are going to survive. I expect extreme quality. Now, guys, I expect you to go home every night and look in the mirror and say, God, I did a good job today. God, I did. I really earned my pay today. I probably earned double my pay today. I expect you to go home every day and feel that way. I expect you to always know that you have done the best job you can, that the code you've written is as clean as you could make it, that the estimates you've made are as honest and open an estimate that you could make, that the designs you're working on are adaptable and flexible as you could make it. I expect you to do a good job. With extreme prejudice, I expect you to behave like professionals. Extreme quality. I have someone building a house for me at the moment. And that person is a craftsman beyond my ability to understand it. He made a mistake. Bought the wrong hinges for the doors, the wrong color. Spent $4,000 on the wrong hinges. We pointed it out to him, and he said, "Oh, that was my mistake. I'm fixing it. Paying for it." We said, "Well, look, that's expensive, and maybe we can work something out." He said, "That is not the way you should think. This was my mistake. I will cover it." What if you made a mistake in the code that cost your company $10,000? Would you behave like that person? Would you write your company a check for $10,000? I can't tell you that that's what you should do because the company is asking you to take risks outside of your ability to cover them. However, you should look at that and think, I just cost the company $10,000. I need to figure out something I can do about that. And probably the only thing you can do is make sure it never happens again. I expect QA to find nothing. Now, what else should we expect QA to find? I don't expect them to find hordes and hordes of bugs. Why would QA find anything? The code was in our hands. We gave it to QA. Why would they find anything? Now, sometimes mistakes happen. Sometimes things are overlooked. I can understand if QA comes back with a bug. But I don't want them coming back with a list, a library. QA should wonder why they're there. And it's our job to make them worried about that. When QA finds nothing, we've done our job. When they find something, we should react. How did that happen? How did that bug get out to QA? How did that happen? And we'll find that hole and we will fix it. Under no circumstances should we ever expect QA to find something. There have been cases, I know, in the past where deals have been struck between the programming staff and QA. We're not going to talk about that at great length, except to say those deals are no longer in effect. You will not supply them with bugs that justify their job, and they will not hand them back to you so that you can hand them back to them again. We are a team, and team members cover for each other. Imagine guys on a sports team. Each one has a position to play, but each one can play someone else's position because someone might get hurt. Or imagine being on board ship. Everybody's got a job to do on board ship, but everybody knows how to do someone else's job because someone might get hurt. They cover for each other. I expect you to do the same. I expect all of us to cover for each other. I don't know how you're going to do this, but what it means is that you're going to have to learn someone else's job, perhaps several other people's job. You will have to become familiar with their code, familiar enough to deal with it. You will have to stay aware of it at all times. You can't just get one little review and then walk away for months. You will have to somehow, I don't know, work with these other people on a regular basis to learn what they're doing, understand where they put their files and how they create their ant files and their make files and everything else that they do, so that if for some reason one of them is absent, you can step in and cover for them. I understand there's this practice out there called pair programming. I don't know if that's what it's going to take, but I do expect that if John disappears, the rest of the team can continue to make progress without just waiting for John to come back. I expect honest estimates. And what is an honest estimate? The most honest estimate is, I don't know. When you don't know, that's what I expect you to say. Now, I expect you to find out, but if you don't know how long something's going to take, I expect those to be the words out of your mouth. If you have some idea of how long it's going to take, I want you to be very careful about how you say it. If you say, well, I think it might take 3 weeks, you have lied. It won't take 3 weeks. What you're trying to say is, it might take 1 week, it might take 10 weeks, and maybe it'll take 3. What I want to hear from you is that range. I want to know what's in your head about the uncertainty. I want you to tell me, well, the most likely answer is 3 weeks, but there's a good chance it could be 10 weeks and a moderate chance that it might be 2. I want you to give me the shape of that curve. And then I want you to constantly update me. Tell me over and over what's happened to that curve. Is it shrinking? Is it widening? Every week I want you to say, oh, well, we've got new information. We think we can tighten up that curve. I do not want you to give me a date, because a date is a lie. A range is the truth. And please make that range realistic. I don't want anybody shortening it up on one side or the other. I don't want, sometimes, look, we're all human. Sometimes my people, the managers, are going to come to you and they're going to say, oh, can't you do it faster? And you'll have to say, no. Because you were hired to say no. You're professionals. You are the ones who know. You are the only ones who could say no. You're the only ones who have the knowledge to be able to utter those words, no. And that is the most valuable thing you can say. It will not be well received. No one will shake your hand for saying no. No one will pat you on the back for saying no, but it will be the thing you will go home that night and say to yourself, God, I did a good job today. I said no. What's the worst thing you can say? No? Yes is fine as long as you believe it. Yes is fine. If you can believe that you're get it done, say yes. Be very careful about saying yes. If you say yes, I'm going to hold you to it. If you say no, I'll hold you to that too. What I don't ever want anybody to say is that they will try. Please tell me what you are going to do differently because you have now used the magic word try. How is that going to change your behavior in any way? What new magical thing have you pulled out of your pocket that allows you to say, I'll try? I know what try means. You say try to me when you want me to go away. Okay, I'll try. Now get out of here. I know what this means. I expect, and I don't know why it's necessary for me to say this to a room full of programmers, but I expect automation. I do not expect you ever to force some humans to do a repetitive job. For example, testing the system. Why in the world would we have human beings repeat the same test scripts over and over and over again at immense cost when we could have a computer do that? I expect you to automate your test scripts, your build scripts, your deployment scripts, and everything else that you want your machines to do. Everything should happen at the click of a button. I don't expect you, of all people, to tolerate manual behavior. I expect you to continuously and aggressively learn. A programmer is like a doctor. A programmer is like a lawyer. A programmer is someone who is constantly reading, constantly learning, constantly ahead of the curve. We see languages come and go. You should know every one of them. As a new language comes out, you should be on top of it. As a new library comes out, you should know it. As a new technique comes out, you should be aware of it. You need to be ahead of the curve. And you do that by learning. And oh, by the way, I'm not going to pay you for that. I expect you to do that at home. Not my time, thank you. I do, however, expect that you will be doing it. And if you don't, there are people who do. I'll find them. And I expect you to teach. I want you to take the new people coming in and teach them every day. I want you to be talking to them and showing them how things work. I want you to be pair programming with them so that we are bringing out the next batch of programmers who will not make the mistakes that we have made. Whether or not you wear a green band, I expect everybody to act like they are wearing a green band. I expect professional behavior from all of you. Thank you. I am pleased to be your new CTO. Are there any questions? Then you have a meal to eat. I suggest you eat it. Thank you all for your attention.